G'day there guys, I'm pretty good at Lego, just saying. Back at it again with another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a like on the video, and tell me what you think about all these stories down in the comments. Posted by user Markee, titled, Am I the a-hole for saying that my daughter's best friend has got to go to a doctor? The title sounds confusing. My daughter's best friend's parents are having some problems right now, so he has stayed with me and will be for a few weeks. We have a very good relationship. I've known him since he was 5 and he's like a son to me. Ever since he moved in 2 weeks ago, I noticed that he was looking kinda sick. I thought that he was stressed. In the last 2 weeks he has thrown up 6 times, his nose suddenly started bleeding a lot 4 times, and he's just always sleeping and doesn't have any energy at all. He's really cold all the time. I talked to him and asked if he wanted to go to the doctor, but he said he was just tired and probably ate something bad and it wasn't serious. I called his parents just to let them know, and they told me that this has been going on for 2 months, but he says it's nothing and refuses to go to a doctor, and they can't afford it anyway, so they are not paying any attention to it. I asked my daughter about it too, and she told me that he doesn't talk to her about it. Today, he threw up again and actually passed out. He's good now, but I told him that he had to go to the doctor and I'd book an appointment for him. He got kind of upset and went to the room and isn't saying anything to me right now. My daughter said that I was too harsh and I can't force him to go to the doctors. If the situation were different than this, I'd be inclined to agree with the daughter. You know, like, it's your body, you're free to do whatever. If someone's telling you to go to the doctor and you don't want to, you don't feel like you have to, they're an a-hole for doing this. But in this case, it's clear this guy is in denial, he genuinely does need the help, his parents are not supporting him, and only OP is the one that is willing to go out of their way to get him to go to a doctor. I can't really fault OP for doing that. I feel like the pressure in this case is necessary. Maybe he has to be a bit of an a-hole to crack this boy out of his denial. Sometimes you just gotta do it. But from everyone else's perspective, he's not an a-hole for doing this, because this boy genuinely needs the help. So, for that, not the a-hole. This kid sounds seriously ill. It would be negligent of you not to seek medical attention for him. It would be interesting if you posted an update, because I truly believe he is going to get diagnosed with something serious, which could get much worse without prompt medical attention. I think so too. Not wanting to go to the doctor, insisting he's fine, but having constant nosebleeds? That sounds like he's got a coke problem and knows the doctors will find out. If the kid isn't on drugs and just doesn't like the doctor or whatever else, then it's probably a tumor. Either way, he needs to go see a doctor. Edit, y'all, this is the internet. Me saying it's coke or a tumor is not a serious diagnosis, but the kid obviously has something going on and needs to see a doctor. There are a million things that it could be, and honestly I hope it's a drug problem rather than leukemia or something worse, because a drug problem is easier to fix. Fatigue, nausea, vomiting, cold, weight loss, nosebleed, teenage passing out. I'd rule out leukemia way before considering cocaine. At the very least, anemia. GP pediatrician is obviously the first stop, but I wouldn't be surprised that hematologist is next. I also had a friend in high school that got wiped out for months by mononucleosis. If he's puking so bad he passes out, he needs to go to the emergency room. Ultimatum time. Either I drive you, or I can call an ambulance. He has cancer symptoms. Nose bleeding. I don't know about cancer, but holy crap, that is scary stuff. Friend of mine who was diagnosed with leukemia had all these symptoms. Not saying the kid has cancer, but he has something bad and is a juvenile, and needs to get medical care ASAP. Update, am I the a-hole for saying that my daughter's best friend has to go to a doctor? First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who gave me advice, and I apologize I couldn't respond or post an update earlier. We went to the doctor, and he has been diagnosed with an eating disorder. I won't go into much detail. It was really hard for everyone, but he's getting the help he needs now. He goes to physical and mental therapy, and he's slowly getting better. I'm paying for everything, and money is not the problem either. He is still staying with me. I talk to their parents regularly, and they approve of everything. They are pretty thankful. My daughter apologized for thinking I was the a-hole for getting him help. He knows we're there for him, and hopefully he'll fully recover soon. Thank you again for judgment and good wishes. Glad that the kid is getting the help he needs. Good job, OP. OP is an angel. I hope that every time you put on a pair of pants, you find a $20 bill in the pockets, and that every time any of your enemies use the toilet at a friend's house, it clogs and there's no plunger by the toilet, and they have to call for help. Caring for another human being is the opposite of being an a-hole. I hope he recovers soon. Good on you, and thanks for the update. I can understand why OP would ask though. Forcing someone you care about to do anything, whether it's to help them or not, feels wrong. Glad this was sorted out though. Posted by user Vegan Thunder. Titled, Am I the a-hole for turning my niece vegan? Hey Reddit, I've got some family drama going on and need to know if it's really all my fault. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law recently asked if my husband and I could watch their 7-year-old daughter for a few weeks. We said yes, and my niece came to stay with us. I'm out of work due to the pandemic, and my husband is an essential worker who has been working extremely long hours. So 95% of the childcare fell on me. I've been a vegan for over 10 years, and was vegetarian for several years before that. Everyone in the family knows this. I cook vegan at home. My husband will sometimes add his own meat or dairy to the vegan meals I provide, but with his new work hours, he hasn't had time to cook for himself at all. So all the meals prepared at our house have been vegan. I did some meat-based convenience foods for my niece. Stuff like chicken nuggets that could just be heated, I can't handle raw meat, and added to her plate. It pained me to do it, but I figured it would be best for everyone. After a few days of living with us and helping me prepare meals, my niece started asking questions about why I don't cook real meat. I explained that I don't eat animals. She kept asking questions about it, lots of whys, and I explained it to her like this. Do you think Dexter, our dog, has feelings? Does he get happy and scared? Would he be scared if someone tried to kill him? Would you want to eat him? Then continued, I believe that cows and pigs and chickens have feelings just like Dexter does, so I don't want to eat them either. After that conversation, my niece promptly declared she didn't want to eat meat again. So I stopped serving her the meat items I bought for her, and she just ate my food. When we made pasta one day, she asked where the cheese was, and I explained to her that they have to take the baby cows away from the mothers to get the milk, but if she really wanted cheese for her pasta, we could go get some at the store. She said no thanks, and that was that. When my sister-in-law came and picked niece up, we chatted a bit, and I mentioned that niece stopped eating meat while she was here. Sister-in-law looked a little taken aback but didn't say anything. The next day, my brother-in-law called my husband and was absolutely furious about it. Sister-in-law and brother-in-law have been screeching about me to everyone in the family, telling them it was really screwed up for me to turn my niece vegan. My husband is ticked at me because now he and his brother are fighting. He and his brother had always been pretty close, but now brother-in-law has been ignoring my husband for a few weeks. I don't think I did anything wrong. I was honest and age-appropriate. I offered the kid animal products, and she decided she didn't want them. Am I the a-hole? Yes, I've covered this one before. If you haven't seen it, I do think that OP is the a-hole in this situation, and they deserve to have the family ghost them like that if they are not going to see the logic in this situation. Like, you don't just decide that you're going to be the parent to these kids and change their ideas about the food they intake. You are not the parent, you don't get to make those decisions. I feel like what OP did was manipulative and wrong. The kid is very much easily influenced, they can't make their own decisions at this age, they lack the critical thinking skills necessary to make their own decisions currently. The way you presented this was without the parents and very much emotionally manipulative, and I feel like OP should be ashamed for what they've done. You're the a-hole. Update: am I the a-hole for turning my niece vegan? So I thought about the response I got here about my family situation. I was a bit of an ass with how I handled the situation. I should have reached out to sister-in-law and brother-in-law when niece started asking questions. I started to feel bad about how inconvenient I had made things for my in-laws, and I was really worried about how my niece was doing, especially as her birthday was coming up. So I reached out to my sister-in-law. I sent her a sincere apology email. I offered to talk to niece, help out with meal planning and cooking, or anything that she might need or want. That opened up doors, and sister-in-law started talking again. Niece is still adamant about not wanting to eat meat. While looking up stuff online about how to feed niece, sister-in-law ended up watching Forks Over Knives and went down that rabbit hole, ultimately deciding that she wants to try a WFPB diet to help control her diabetes. So a few things happened. First, sister-in-law, niece, and I did a huge meal prep day, and we filled their deep freezer with almost 100 vegan freezer meals. Lots of kid-friendly stuff for niece, and some whole grain no-oil meats for sister-in-law. I taught them some of my favorite recipes, and we tried some newbies we found online. We actually had a lot of fun, and plan on getting together to do this whenever the horde starts to get low. I catered niece's 8th birthday party, complete with homemade vegan cake, ice cream, and veggie burgers. I am babysitting niece again. Things with brother-in-law are still a work in progress though. He and my hubby are talking again, but he is still pretty upset. Especially now that sister-in-law has also ditched meat and dairy. She is the primary cook in their household, and they are still working out how to handle their lifestyle changes, I guess. I am sure things will get better soon though. So, thank you, am I the a-hole? Things have worked out, even with me being a total donkey's butt. Edits? Geez, you people just can't stand a happy update, huh? The family issue has been mostly resolved. I've apologized, I have been apologized too. We are doing family things again. Hurt feelings are healing, and we are all good. Also, I did not push my sister-in-law to a vegan diet. She is a grown-ass woman who came across information herself, did more research herself, and made a decision for herself. I did not know she had made this decision until we went grocery shopping for our meal prep day. And to guarantee that what she is eating now, lots of fiber, plant protein, greens, and more colorful food, is worlds better for her than the white pasta with cheese sauce, huge-ass piece of dead animal, and boiled-to-death green beans that she used to eat every day, lol. I'm not signing back into this account, so go ahead and rage away. I will just keep turning my family vegan. Smiley face. Clever vegan propaganda. Agreed. Adults don't change their entire diet overnight just because they watched a single video. It's a nice thought, but it doesn't just happen, and this reads like a work of fiction. They totally do. My mum used to totally overhaul her diet regularly based on, like, Dr. Oz, or some article she read on the internet, or whatever. She never stuck with them for longer than a few weeks or months, but then, we don't know that OP's sister will stick with her big overnight change either. My mum was exactly like this. For decades, our conversations always started out with what new diet she was on for what new reason. I actually have no memory of my mother not being on some sort of new diet. Why would you make grain-based oil-free meals for someone trying to control diabetes with diets? Anything grain-based is carb-heavy, and taking out fats makes blood glucose spikes more likely. She's an insane ideologue who indoctrinates children. What do you expect? It looks like a vegan fantasy. I converted my little niece and her mother into veganism, and I cooked them 100 vegan dishes into their conveniently unused giant freezer, and everyone clapped. As someone who has actually packaged up 100 meals in a day of cooking, big family, doing once a month cooking with other mums, it is not enjoyable or fun. It's a chore from the start to finish, and even though the end result is great, nobody is happy or smiling at the end of the day. Posted by user, Am I the A-hole friend 5Os, titled, Am I the A-hole for not letting my friend live in my spare room? So I have this friend, Bill, and we've been friends since we were kids, and we are now both 30. He's one of my closest friends, and we normally have a great relationship. When I was 19, I moved away from our hometown, went to uni, did some traveling, and have now settled in a town several hours away. I have a good job, great friends, I'm pretty settled. 2 years ago, my great-uncle died, and left me some money. And since then, I've been saving as much as possible, and I now have enough for a house deposit, which I'm pretty thrilled about. I've started looking for places, and I'm hoping to buy a 2-bed flat in the town that I live in. Bill has not done so great. He still lives with his parents in our hometown, and has worked in the same supermarket for years. I have no issues with this, but sadly, Bill is miserable because he hates his job, hates living with his parents, and is generally unhappy. For several years, I tried to encourage Bill to move out, and I offered him to move in with me, rent-free, for a couple of months so he could get himself together. Bill always declined, and I probably stopped mentioning it about 3 to 4 years ago. So to the situation. Bill knew I had been left this money by my uncle, but a week ago, we were chatting on the phone, and I was telling him about viewing a flat soon. Bill straight up asked me if he could live in my spare room whenever I purchased my place. We haven't talked about it in so long, so I basically said I would think about it and let him know. Bill seemed pretty unhappy by this. I think he was expecting me to not hesitate, but said he hoped that I made up my mind soon. A few days ago, I called Bill back and said unfortunately, I don't think it'd be a good idea. And he was so angry, but also sad. It was horrible. The conversation was pretty long, but he basically accused me of lying to him when I offered that he could live with me, and said I was a terribly unsupportive friend, etc., etc. The thing is, I was like 24 to 26 when I offered Bill my sofa, but my life is different now. I have a girlfriend, a goddaughter who I want to sleep over lots, and now I'm a bit older, so I just don't want to share my living space. Also, I hadn't said anything to Bill about living together in years, and he had never mentioned it. I feel really bad about this situation, and when I spoke to a mutual friend, she just said it would be nicer for me to let Bill stay with me for a bit, but otherwise didn't want to get involved in the argument. I feel like such an ass. But am I the a-hole? This is unfortunately a thing that's too little too late for Mr. Bill here. Life isn't fair. He's let time pass him by without doing anything about his current financial situation. It's not on you to save him and continue to enable his bad life choices and habits. I would feel terrible for doing so, and I'd feel even worse being dragged into an hour or hours long phone conversation with him just telling me how terrible I am and how terrible his life is. That's not something I want to do. It's not nice. I don't think it's too productive if he's just trying to manipulate you to get to live with you. Life moves on, Bill. That's just the way of the world. And OP, I can't blame you for anything you've done here. Bill isn't your problem. You don't have to help him. And by not helping him, that wouldn't make you an a-hole. So, not the a-hole. Of course you are not the a-hole. People on Reddit are going to tell you he's entitled, and you should drop him, etc., etc. But my view of the truth is, it sounded like he just banked the idea that he'd always have the option of living with you if things got really bleak. They likely are, but life has also moved on, so you're not in the position to make the same offer. There is no problem in that. Friendships die and grow in these difficult situations. He probably can't see beyond his pain and frustration at the world right now. However, I would recommend you let him know that you're always going to be his friend, and hopefully, once he's in a place to see beyond the hurt, you can pick up your friendship. Hey, thanks for this. I think you've really hit the nail on the head here. He probably has always banked on it, so that's why he's mad and upset. He's actually a wonderful guy, and it makes me so sad that he feels so stuck in his situation. But I just can't be the one to pull him out anymore. Maybe with a bit of time it might be okay, because I just hate the idea that this could be friendship ending, because I love this boy, and I know it's mutual. You made a generous offer, 6 years ago? It wasn't an ironclad lifetime contract. It was okay for him to ask you if the offer was still open, but he shouldn't have assumed nothing had changed. Not the a-hole, I'm sure he isn't a bad person, but shouldn't have blown up when you said no. No a-holes here, but these are the times I hate this sub because the bar is so low. No, you aren't an a-hole, but you have the opportunity to change a close friend's life. None of those are good reasons why you can't, they are reasons why you don't want to. You should do better than not being an a-hole and be a really good human and let him come live with you. Thanks for your reply. None of those are good reasons why you can't, they are reasons why you don't want to. That's really accurate, I think, and has definitely given me something to think about. Well, kindness is crucified on this sub, so I'm sure I will be downvoted. I'm glad you saw it. I don't want to live with you is a valid reason. It doesn't matter if they can or can't make space for him. If you don't want to live with him, don't live with him. It's not your job to push your own wants and desires aside to accommodate someone who has willfully chosen to not improve their lot in life. Offers like that are not indefinite. People's life situations change. The fact that Bill has chosen to remain stagnant for years doesn't mean that the world stops turning. Definitely still offer him reasonable support and help. Maybe offer to help him look for new living arrangements. Or, if he's hard up for money, maybe see, only if you are genuinely comfortable with it, if you can float him a few dollars to help him land on his feet. But absolutely do not feel like you ought to feel bad for not letting him stay with you when he declined your offer for years. Update: Am I the a-hole for not letting my friend live in my spare room? I wasn't sure whether to post an update, but actually, this sub really helped me. However, judging by the responses I got, I am not sure whether anyone will like what happened. I first had a conversation with my girlfriend. We've only been together a year, and I'm buying the flat completely on my own. But there was certainly a suggestion that she might move in with me, depending on how things go in the next few months or so. She was, and generally is, pretty wonderful. And she's also met Bill, and knows what he means to me. She said if I wanted to offer him my spare room for a few months, then I should go for it. Then Bill. I won't go into too much detail, but I laid it all out for him. I basically said that I didn't want a roommate, and that now I was in a relationship, my privacy was even more important to me. I said that it was important Daisy, my goddaughter, also felt at home in my place, so the spare room was basically going to be hers. I then said that he was one of my closest friends, and I'd do anything for him if I could. I said that he could move in with me, rent-free, for 3 months, providing he got a job and saved up some money to rent a room somewhere after. We ironed out a few more details, but that was the general gist. It was really emotional. Bill kept apologizing, and we both cried, but it was a good conversation. I really appreciated all the responses to my post, but they did initially make me righteously angry, if that makes sense. Through my not the a-hole validation, I was kind of getting annoyed at Bill, thinking, what right did he have to my home, and how dare he be mad about an offer that I made 4 years ago? And then I read the above comment and suddenly thought, yeah, he's got no right to be mad at me, but if he really is one of my best friends, then surely I should help him if I can, and the fact is, I totally can. So there you go. Bill will be moving into my new place, and in the meantime, I'm going to help him rewrite his CV so he can start looking for jobs in my town. Maybe this is a bad decision, and this sub has certainly made me realize I don't owe him anything. But it still feels like the right thing to do. Thanks, Reddit. Edits? Holy crap, I did not expect so many replies and comments. Thank you to everyone who replied, and especially thanks to the lovely person who messaged offering support for Bill to write a cover letter. Just to clarify, I'm a girl, not a guy. I do appreciate the people wanting me not to do this, but my mind is made up and I really think it's the right decision. I understand it may not work out, but I believe in Bill and our friendship, and I know that he wouldn't do anything to intentionally hurt me. If I'm allowed, I'll write an update in 3 months. Not sure how the rules of updates work in this sub, and hopefully I can give you all good news. Wow, I'm so happy to hear this update. I really hope this ends up changing both your and Bill's lives for the better. I'm blown away by the response to the original comment and the awards kind Redditors. Love everyone raising the bar together. This really made my night. Thanks. The more I read your comment, the more it stuck with me. It also helped that when I spoke to my girlfriend, she said a similar thing, although a bit more subtle than you did. Thank you for your words. OP states that it's important for their goddaughter to feel comfortable in the space as well. Will Bill be mindful of the space in this regard? How often does the goddaughter visit? That being said, if Bill is sincerely motivated to turn their life around, they will be back on their feet again in no time. All they need is a safe space to regroup. Be thankful you're in a position to give something meaningful to another person that you care about. A little kindness goes a long way. And OP says, hey, there's been so many comments that I've struggled to read them, but I just wanted to reply to this one so far, as it's the first one I've read that mentions Daisy, my goddaughter. So, she's only 7 and has never stayed at my place because I currently live in a shared house. But she's been asking for years for a sleepover, and I promised her when I had my own place that she could stay over. I'm gonna sit down with her when I next see her, which will probably be tomorrow, as I go over there every Wednesday and try to explain it to her. I'm also gonna tell her that when the room is free again, she can help decorate it. So I'm pretty sure that'll be enough to make her happy. This does mean I'll probably be painting the room purple, cause that's her favorite color. But sacrifices have to be made. Posted by user ThrowawayAdvice236, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend that being depressed is not an excuse for being lazy? I, 29, have always supported my girlfriend, 23. We've been together for 4 years now and lived together for 1. She has always had anxiety, as well as depression, where some months are worse than others. I have supported her through all of this and understand it is very hard for her. In January, she lost her job due to the current world circumstances. By March, she hit a low point with not eating as much, crying, irritability, the typical traits of depression. I have comforted her as much as possible and taken care of everything. However, at the beginning of June, I was allowed back to work, and since, the house has fallen to shambles. I am too tired by the time I come home to do anything, even cook. Most nights we order takeout, and on the rare occasion, she makes food. The floors aren't being washed, hoovering isn't being done, laundry is a mountain, and dishes are everywhere. I try to keep on top of it, but with work it is almost impossible. She is home all day. She lies in bed till late afternoon, watches Netflix, eats bowls of cereal, and naps. That's about it. I've tried to gently coax her to do more, and she says she will get to it, but never does. I finally snapped, told her I was sick of her doing nothing all day, and leaving the housework to me. That if she is here and I am working, she needs to be pulling her weight. She got upset, and said that she wants to, but she can never find the motivation, that she is tired all the time. I said I understand she was depressed, but it isn't an excuse to do nothing and be lazy. No one likes housework, but I won't take any more excuses about it. She needs to start doing it or leave. Next day, I come home to a clean house and a note from her saying she was sorry and is going to stay with her mother. Her mum helped her clean before they left. I tried calling, but she wouldn't pick up. When I rang the house, her mother answered and had a lot to say. She was furious, telling me about how she is struggling and I am making her worse, that I should be supporting her, not ignoring that she is in a bad place, and so on. I was told my girlfriend had been crying all day in her bedroom, and I feel awful. I never wanted to hurt her. I just snapped. I tried to get her mother to give my girlfriend the phone, but she wouldn't speak to me. It feels like a lose-lose situation. On one hand, I know depression results in lack of motivation and cleanliness, and on the other hand, I can't stand to see our home in such chaos. I've never had depression, so I can't say for sure how bad it truly is. That's why I find it more difficult to 100% empathize. Am I the a-hole for telling her depression isn't an excuse? Extra info, She has a therapist and talks regularly with them. Her depression is worse since losing her job. Usually she is quite clean and tidy. We don't usually have this issue. She is looking for a job despite depression, etc. I have enough money to support us both in the meantime. Such as what happens a lot of the time in these circumstances, communication is key, and communication is the way to stop a lot of bad problems in relationships. He communicated with her, she didn't communicate with him back. It doesn't sound like she was being honest to him about her struggles and why she wasn't doing it. As he said, he was getting a lot of excuses from her. She is getting help. She is getting a lot of support in her life. You know, unfortunately, you do have to pick up the slack with these things. And if him communicating and finally trying to get her to do her fair share of work is enough to get her to go back to mum and have to cool down for a bit, then so be it. Sometimes these things just have to happen, but OP cannot continue the way he's been going with her, and she cannot continue the way she has been going in the house. Something has to change. I can't blame OP for what he's done, not the a-hole. No a-holes here. I feel for both you and her. It's not easy dealing with someone who has depression, just as it's not easy for that person to be dealing with the depression. It's not fair on you to bear that emotionally, and it's not fair to her to have someone pushing her. I think you both need to reevaluate and probably take a break or just break up. She doesn't seem to be okay in a relationship right now with what she's dealing with. To be honest, I'm surprised OP didn't pitch doing housework as a means to combat depression. Just doing a couple tasks a day can stave off feeling down. For example, clean the kitchen on Monday, get groceries on Tuesday, etc. That would have been an approach to a solution that would have met both sides' needs. So I can only speak from my own personal experience with having depression disorder since elementary school. I fully recognize not everyone is the same with this disorder. Your idea is entirely valid and on the surface makes sense, but I get an all or nothing mentality. Either I clean everything now or nothing gets done. I know that it makes no sense. There is no reason why I can't pick up my laundry today, do dishes tomorrow, etc. But in my brain, if I pick up my clothes from the bedroom floor, well, now I need to straighten my shelves, and now I need to dust, and now I need to clean the closet, reorganize the drawers, re-alphabetize my bookshelf, wash the windows, etc., etc. But I don't have the energy to do all of that. My body physically hurts, I'm so tired and so sad, so I can't do any of it. This kind of paralysis was always my biggest depression symptom. Whatever the task was, I just couldn't do it. My brain would not and could not make the necessary connections to get started, and at any opportunity to take a break, it would shudder to a halt again. It wasn't that there was something I would rather be doing, it was this grey static in my head blocking all thought and movement. Therapeutic techniques like breaking things down, then writing it down so I didn't have to hold everything in my head, helped a bit, but it wasn't until my medication kicked in that I felt the ability to actually commit to action start returning. Yeah, it feels like my brain gets stuck in a loading sequence. Like I can see the tasks I'm supposed to be doing, but the damn mouse won't work, so I can just do them. And I feel like people underestimate the physical toll on you as well. I'll get partially through a task, and then I'll need to take a break for like food or water or the bathroom. But as soon as I stop moving, every single part of my body hurts, and getting it to start again is an insurmountable task. My meds helped sometimes, but it was a real toss-up depending on what I was on. Update: am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend that being depressed is not an excuse for being lazy? Ultimately, I realized that the majority of the blame was mine. I never ever should have called her lazy, because that isn't what she is. I lashed out and I shouldn't have. She stayed at her mother's for a few days, and we eventually met up to talk. I told her how it just got too much for me, but it was no excuse for lashing out, and I apologized. She apologized also, not that she needed to, and we talked for a long while about how we can make our relationship work. I expressed my concerns over her therapist, who was very against anything other than talking therapy. She agreed that he didn't really seem to have her best interests at heart, and she's currently looking for someone new. For now, I suggested she stops looking for work. She got a lot of rejections, and I could see it was upsetting her more. I just felt we should take a step back from that, and I want her to focus a little more on herself. She was unsure, as she felt bad that I would be working for both of us, but I assured her that it is fine. I make enough to support us both quite comfortably. I also suggested maybe she could volunteer at some point, just to get her out and get some more stuff on her resume. I'm no therapist, so these were just suggestions, but it has seemed to have taken some of the pressure off her, which is all I wanted. We agreed that being in the apartment all day alone and in bed is no good for her. So we came up with a plan that she do an exercise video 3 times a week. It's only a 10-minute one, just so that she is doing something. She has found she likes doing them, they make her feel a bit better after, and has started doing something called yin yoga now too. To help me, she has 1 chore a day to do. I don't care what it is, it could be dishes, or it could just be putting the laundry in the hamper. This rule has at least gotten her out of bed for part of the day, and she's found that once she starts, she sometimes ends up doing more than one thing. I make sure to show my appreciation for whatever she has done, no matter how small it was. We have set out that every Sunday we will have a deep cleaning day where we get everything done for that week. This has been surprisingly successful. We make it fun and just mess around while still getting things done. It makes the week a lot more manageable when we only have light chores to keep on top of. She's trying more, and I am also working on being more supportive about her depression. I'm researching it more and learning ways I can help her because it is a part of her. We are both putting more effort in and communicating a lot better. I hope we keep making progress because I do love her very much and want us to work. It's so nice when these things have a happy ending. Good job on working on your issues and communicating properly. This does seem like a great example of a couple coming together and talking about their issues. Not only that, but they gave each other space and waited for cooler heads to prevail so they could talk honestly and without tempers flaring. They get an A++++. They're going to make it, I can tell. Totally. On a related note, this is why I hate the cliché advice often given to couples to never go to bed angry. Nah, man. What good does it do to stay up and add exhaustion to the argument? Speaking as someone in a marriage with that rule, it's less about insisting on staying awake until things are resolved, and more about recognizing that anything can happen, and not wanting to risk having major regret. Both my husband and I lost our mothers very young. I was 18 when my mother died, he was 23. And we have both suffered a tremendous amount of loss since, including family and very close friends. In the case of my husband's mother, she fell into a coma very suddenly and spent a month unconscious in the ICU before dying. My own mother died of cancer, but lost her ability to speak very suddenly as a result of a serious seizure. We both learned the consequences of leaving things unsaid, so neither of us want to risk going to sleep or leaving the house ticked off in the off chance something could happen to either of us. That said, we both readily acknowledge not every argument is easily solvable, so there have been times when bedtime has gone like this. I love you with everything I am. I know that we are going to work this out. I just need more time to cool off before I am able to rationally talk it out. Hugs and kisses, we can both rest easy. I'm not sure every couple with that rule is the same as we are, and we get that it's not feasible or understandable for everyone, but it's important to us. Posted by user ILovePizza32, titled, Am I the a-hole for siding with my brother and sister-in-law over my parents? My brother and my sister-in-law have been married for 6 years. I love them both dearly. They adopted a little girl about a year ago. My parents were happy about this too, at first. They got really angry when my brother and sister-in-law announced recently that their daughter would be their only child and they do not want biological kids. My mum and dad lost their crap. They told my brother he had to get my sister-in-law pregnant. He was the family's male heir and he would have to have a biological son to carry forward the family name. This makes no sense to me, nor my bro and sister-in-law. It's not as if we're a family of European royalty. Who gives an F about the family name in this day and age? Well, my parents do apparently. They've been berating my brother and guilt-tripping my sister-in-law, making her feel like she's taking something away from our family. On one occasion, they actually suggested that my brother leave my sister-in-law if she didn't want to get pregnant, and he have a son with another woman. What's even worse is that they've stopped paying attention to my niece. Earlier, they would call and talk to her almost every day, but ever since they were told about my bro and sister-in-law's decision, they've stopped calling her. This pees me off, and has deeply saddened my bro and sister-in-law. The child is 3 years old and does not deserve this kind of treatment. Yesterday, when I called my brother, he seemed very upset. He told me that Mum and Dad had called him and they had talked about something unrelated. When he asked if he wanted to talk to their granddaughter, they said that they'd talk to their real grandchild when my brother came to his senses and decided to give them one. I was angrier than I've been in a long time. I called my parents and unloaded on them. I told them how selfish and cruel they were being and how dare they take out their anger on my niece, along with a lot of other things that I can't even remember. My mum started crying as she's not used to being yelled at. I understand that yelling at them may have been a bit much, but I just can't believe how awful they're being towards a kid. So, am I the a-hole or are they? Edit. Some people have been wondering how my parents would act when I have kids. No need to worry about that since I won't be having any. I made this clear to my parents years ago, and yes, they threw a fit over this. I'm pretty sure I've already covered this one, and OP going off at them, absolutely not the a-hole. It's understandable why they'd be upset that they don't get grandparents, but it's not their choice in the end, and it's not their place to pressure their kids into having biological kids that they don't want. That's just stupid, archaic thinking. They have no actual reason to be upset. They should be happy with the grandchild they have, yet they are not. So for OP to do this and go off at them and put them in their place, you are not the a-hole. Update. Am I the a-hole for siding with my brother and sister-in-law over my parents? It's been 4 weeks since I posted the original story. Since then, my parents have tried to rally our relatives, uncles, aunts, cousins, and our grandparents to gang up on my brother and sister-in-law to pressure them to have a biological child, preferably male. However, their plan has failed miserably. Most of the relatives told them that they were being crazy. Cousins repeated some of the things that I had said to them. Uncles and aunts told them if they did want a biological grandson, there was no excuse for the way they were treating my niece. Even my grandparents, who were quite old-fashioned, admonished them for their behavior. My brother has banned them from his home. I've banned them from mine, and this ban will stay in place until they start treating my niece like their granddaughter, i.e., the way she deserves to be treated. I feel like my grandparents shunning my niece hurts even more because when she first became a part of the family, they appeared to love her. They would speak to her on the phone, play with her when they visited, but all of that stopped when they found out that my brother and sister-in-law won't be having any biological kids. They just rejected a little girl for no fault of her own. I showed my previous post to my sister-in-law, and your kind words did put a smile on her face. For that, I want to say thank you. As an adopted person, I want to say thank you and all of your relatives for being horrified about this real relation bullcrap. Anyone can have a child. That does not mean they can be a parent, and your parents certainly don't deserve the name of grandparents with their fixation on genetics and names. Adopted families are in no way less legitimate than biological ones. Love and care is what binds. Tell your brother and sister-in-law that they are wonderful, and you are a hero for backing them up and cutting off your parents. Bravo. This. As a person raised in a lovely foster family from birth till middle-aged man I am now, I can confirm this. I was expected to die soon after birth, but they watered me with so much love that I had to stay alive. Someone else comments, preferably male? What would happen if they did have a biological child and it was a girl? Would they berate them until they had a grandson? Well, obviously they need to keep popping out kids until the wife provides a male heir. And if the son needs to execute her and remarry in order for the heir to be provided, then that's just what he'll have to do for the crown of England. The ironic part about that whole thing of old monarchs killing or exiling their wives for not providing them a male heir like Henry VIII is that it's the male who determines the baby's gender. So the failing is with them and not their wives. Just an added piece of stupidity to an already stupid notion. These a-holes don't realize that they have damaged relationships with many people for no reason. They already have an image of a crazy couple, and it's only going to get worse. Well done sticking to your brother and your niece. I hope they aren't stupid and delusional enough to not realize that now. Given that they've now alienated virtually every member of their actual family in the pursuit of a hypothetical legacy that might not even happen even if bro and sister-in-law wanted bio kids, I'm not optimistic. Yeah, I remember that post. It was a doozy for me as an adoptee to read too. Honestly, you should keep this ban in place no matter what until the kid decides otherwise when she reaches an age to decide with clear logical reasoning. They have shown their true colors. They have shown how they truly think of her and her adoptees by extension. I wouldn't want people who think that poorly of a child to be around them no matter what. Your last post infuriated me. This post infuriates me. I'll eventually get to the sadness part. Stay strong, love that niece to bits, give my thanks to all your family members. You all are one amazing family for throwing out that kind of blood first and genetics matters BS. Posted by user Stay or Go. Titled, Am I the A-hole? And also my friends for not wanting to babysit our other friend's child. I'm just going to get straight into it. This is about a group of friends, 5 people, and one friend expecting us to provide her with free childcare. We are all in our mid and end 20s. Some of us go to university and work part-time, others have finished their education and work. A friend of said friend group, I will call her Lily here, got pregnant about 3 years ago. She was separated from the child's father when she found out she was pregnant, and it was clear to all of us, Lily included, that he would be a deadbeat should Lily decide to keep the pregnancy going and get the baby. Since we are all pretty close, she discussed this with us. We are all women, by the way. All 4 of us said that this decision was solely Lily's, and we understand her situation sucks, but also all 4 of us were leaning towards an abortion with the following reasons. Lily had no stable income at the time. Her parents were supporting her financially, and adding the burden of a child to that seemed unfair. The father would be a deadbeat, meaning she was going to be on her own with this kid. Lily loves her freedom. She has a very big fear of missing out. As a single mother in a group of 5 single young women, there would be many things she would have to miss out on. Well, she still decided to keep the pregnancy and gave birth to her baby a little over 2 years ago. Since then, she's been miserable. But not only her. Our friendship is suffering and we are getting tired of her. The father is a deadbeat as expected. He has no contact with Lily. She expects this baby to be all of ours responsibility. She expects to drop the kid on one of us whenever she wants to or needs to. She expects us to rotate with missing out on events so she can take part in some of them, as if this kid was a common responsibility to all 5 of us and not just her. We specifically don't have kids because we want to live our lives and not take care of a child. Lily gets frustrated with us over this. She thinks as friends we should take on this responsibility together. We think she was the one who decided to have this child. It was her decision and is her responsibility. So Reddit, are we the a-holes for not taking care of Lily's child equally? Edit, if there are questions, please ask. Didn't want to make this too long. Edit 2, Lily thinks that we should step in because the father is a deadbeat and she should not have to do it on her own. Newsflash Lily, you decided to keep the kid as a single mother, knowing the father was a deadbeat. It's a very hard decision to go either way, but you cannot expect your friends to pick up the slack that you and your baby daddy dropped. The child is not your friend's responsibility, and it's unfair of you to expect them to be looking after them and going on rotations so that you don't miss out. It's unfortunate, but when you have kids, you kinda have to make sacrifices. OP, I don't think you're the a-holes for not taking care of Lily's child. You gave her plenty of warning beforehand what would happen, and she still went through with it. I don't know why she expects you guys to change your mentality now just because the baby is born. That's unhealthy, and she really needs to get some help. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It's not your responsibility at all. Your entire life changes when you have a kid, and it sounds like she is refusing to accept it so far. Not the a-hole, and I don't want to be a dick, but I see stupid people pull this crap all the time. What the F was she expecting when she had her mistake? And before you say it wasn't a mistake, I also agree with the fact that she refuses to accept that this is her sole responsibility because she got herself into this mess all alone. Kids aren't some one-off thing with equal distribution. They are years of misery, pain, and love by two if you're solo. I don't disagree with the mistake part, just the part where you say you don't want to be a dick. Everything you said was true, but you're a dick referring to that child as her mistake, Lamau. Yeah, honestly, I regret nothing. From what I've read, she's very selfish. Why do people have kids when they don't actually want to, raise a kid? It will never stop blowing my mind how often parents try to pawn off their spawn when they just don't feel like parenting. Yeah, I get that it's hard. That's why I don't have kids. Not the a-hole. Having her child was 100% her decision and is 100% her responsibility. It's incredibly unfair and selfish of her to expect you all to jump in and co-parent for her when none of you agreed to that. You are her adult, currently child-free friends, living your adult, child-free lives. This is the life she chose for herself, and she needs to make peace with it. Side note, that poor kid. Not the a-hole, it's her kid, her responsibility. You guys can help out, but it should not be expected, but asked if you could look after X on date Y for a set period of time. Lily is the a-hole, asking friends to help out is normal, but expecting your friends to miss out on things they want to do so she can go instead? Not cool. She chose to have a kid. The burden of not being able to go to everything is on her solely. Update. Am I the a-hole, and also my friends, for not wanting to babysit our other friend's child? First of all, I'm sorry for taking so long to update, but it kind of took longer than I expected, and it was a process. I took your messages to heart. After posting here, I first talked to the other three, making sure we were all on the same page. We then arranged a meetup with Lily and had a very long, very tough conversation. We were really honest with her. We told her we love her dearly, but her child was solely her responsibility. We are not, and also do not, want to be any sort of parents to her child. Here is what we discussed. We discussed what you guys suggested. 1. Maybe she could try to make mum friends, so she has people who actually can relate to her, and also they can build some kind of babysitting schedule. 2. Maybe she needs therapy. She still has not adjusted to being a mum, and it's about time. We also wanted to set some rules in place. 3. We won't miss any events to babysit her child unless there is an emergency, meaning somebody is injured or dead. 4. We are open to do child-friendly activities sometimes, but not all of our meetings will be child-friendly. Either she has a babysitter for that, who is none of us, or she has to miss some of our activities. 5. Our studies and jobs are our main priorities. We won't sacrifice that because she has to be a mother. And 6. We offered her one Saturday evening and night of babysitting a month. The 4 of us would rotate, meaning every 4 months it would be my turn, where she could do whatever she wants and go wherever she wants for that time. In addition to that, we are willing to rotate babysitting her child while she is in therapy sessions if she decided to go. It was a really long talk, and I'm probably missing some things we all said. All of us cried a lot. We talked for a long time. Lily was very disappointed and explained all the things we already knew. how she expected us to take on her child as if it was ours, all the things I already mentioned in my last post. But she said she needed to just let this sink in. I saw her pain that day, and all four of us felt really badly and sorry for her. But it was a weight off my chest that I can't even explain. Lily has found a therapist and is looking forward to starting therapy in October. I truly hope this helps her let go of some of the sadness and also learn to accept her situation as a single mother and that we can continue to be friends with her. Thank you guys for helping me out. I am so happy to hear that you had that talk with her. You all handled it very well. I would have had a hard time with it as well because I hate confrontation. I love that you even offered together a sort of babysitting schedule that you would all rotate. That's not too much for you all to deal with, and to help when she's in therapy. Sounds like she had some hard thinking to do. I'm glad that she's going into therapy now. Did she reach out again afterwards to let you know how she took it all after thinking? Yes, she reached out to us to tell us that she has therapy scheduled and we are still talking. I think she's kind of grieving the loss of her life as a child-free person, and it really sunk in that she really has all this responsibility on her shoulders. We think that this is where a lot of her pain is coming from, and that before giving birth, she just really did not grasp what a big thing this would be. There are still parts of her that feel abandoned, which we really pointed out a couple of times that this is not what we are doing. We want to be friends with her. But I do have the feeling that also a part of her understands where we are coming from. This is great. I have one friend who ended up divorcing shortly after her son was born. Different reasons in different situations. I love stepping up and babysitting and for free, but if I can't for some reason, I can't. She gets paid help when she needs it and has rarely called with an emergency. She had a divorce lawyer emergency. Oh my god, lawyer wants to meet now. Can you watch sleeping 5-month-old for an hour and a half so I don't wake him? And called for some help when her mom was sick. I think this is the sort of thing that you should expect from a friend in relation to watching your kids, not anything else. I'm glad you guys aren't saying that you're not interested at all. You just want it to be a fair thing. Yes, we want her in our lives and we just love her like we always did, but we felt that resentment was starting to build up and we did not want this friendship to end. I really hope this schedule will help us and her to not lose our bond. Posted by user, Am I the A-hole missed birth? Titled, Am I the A-hole for not defending my brother-in-law for missing the birth of his daughter, even though I missed the birth of mine? So, my wife, 31 female, and I, 29 male, have 2 kids, our older son and younger daughter. My brother-in-law Josh, 26 male, has just had a baby girl with his partner, Brad. On the day my daughter was born 2 years ago, I was with my other brother-in-law Dan, also 29 male, when he was hit by a car. Understandably, he was in bad shape, and I called an ambulance, and his parents told me my wife was in labor. My wife told me over the phone to go with Dan to the hospital, and that she would be fine. She was more worried for Dan than anyone. We were both at different hospitals. My wife at the local hospital, and Dan and I at a bigger city hospital. And it culminated in me missing my daughter being born while I stayed with Dan so he wasn't alone and I could keep everyone updated. Dan ended up making a full recovery with some physio, and my daughter was born with no complications, and I met her when she was a few hours old. Now, Josh and Brad had a baby due in late August, but Josh had a vacation with his friends booked for July. Note, it was a vacation within the country and within the pandemic restrictions. Brad asked him not to go so close to the baby being born, and I also advised him not to go. But he chose to anyway, as he thought he has enough time. Evidently, he did not. Brad went into labor while he was gone, and his daughter was born without him there. Like my case, it was a few hours before he could get back to meet her. The entire family is fuming at him because we all told him not to go on the vacation. He asked for my support because he thought that I would understand, and I told him it's a completely different scenario and that I had no choice. And more importantly, I had my wife's permission. Apparently, he and his friends all believe that we, but more specifically me, because I should get it, are a-holes because it wasn't his choice to miss the birth because she was born preemie. I think he's the a-hole because there's a huge difference between the reasons I couldn't be there versus his reasons. I seriously don't get his logic, so I'm asking you guys for some more perspective. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I didn't put this in the post to avoid any off-topic questions or transphobes, but Josh's partner is a trans man, not a wife, girlfriend, or lady. Edit 2. I keep getting asked this, so the baby was 5 to 6 weeks early. Yeah, I believe that they're two separate things also. This guy obviously didn't have permission to go on this vacation from everyone else. I feel like if everyone is telling you, hey, this is a really bad idea, you're going on a vacation and you're going to put this baby at risk during a pandemic, if it does come out, man, you should probably stay home and not going on this vacation because you could miss the birth. If you willfully go against that advice from your entire family, you might have a few screws loose in your head, and the friends are no better enabling this behavior. I can't understand it, I don't know how your friends understand it, not the a-hole OP, good on you for shutting this guy down. Not the a-hole, and you better believe no partner of mine would be going on vacation if I were 8 months pregnant. I'm gonna go as far as to say anytime your pregnant partner asks you to not go away on vacation and you go anyway, you're the a-hole. They don't get a break from gestating your baby. You're not entitled to a break from supporting them through it. Exactly. I was 34 weeks when my husband had a scheduled business trip 3 hours away. He asked me how I felt about it. I told him to go but to take his own car so that he could leave in the middle of the night if necessary. He thought about it and eventually told his supervisor that there's no way he's going because he would not forgive himself missing the birth of his daughter. He missed it nonetheless. She was born full term during the peak of the pandemic when all support people, including the fathers, were banned from the delivery rooms. It just wasn't meant to be, and I'm still very sad about the fact that he missed it. And there was literally nothing he could have done about it. Can't imagine how I would feel if he missed it because he was on vacation without me. Not the a-hole. He clearly didn't have his priorities straight. If he chooses to go on vacation when his pregnant partner is asking him not to, he is already an a-hole. He's just trying to use you as a shield. Update. Am I the a-hole for not defending my brother-in-law for missing the birth of his daughter, even though I missed the birth of mine? Well, I wasn't expecting the response on my last post. I thought some of you might like an update, and a couple of people on Twitter requested it. It's a happy ending, you'll be glad to hear. I did send Josh this post, and he admitted that he screwed up. Brad has reported to me that Josh has well and truly repented. Their baby girl is now 4 weeks old, and Josh has been on night duty since she was a week old. He apologized to Brad for not being there for him, and to me for dragging me into it. Both of us forgave him, and it seems everything will be okay. Their daughter is a happy, healthy little girl, and a very vocal one at that. She's apparently a big fan of yelling at her dads and not sleeping, so Josh is certainly receiving his karma. Unfortunately, she's yet to meet her cousins and most of the family thanks to the pandemic, but we receive plenty of video calls and photos. Brad also saw the post and thanked everyone for their congratulations and support. He's recovering well at home, and he's almost ready to start binding again, as well as slowly returning to taking HRT. I'm sure some of you will be disappointed to hear that Josh has been forgiven, but that's just the way it goes. My niece will grow up in a happy family with 2 dads who love her, and hopefully Josh will never be so dumb again. I'm not upset at all that Josh was forgiven, because it sounds like he understood that he was wrong, took responsibility, and made it right with Brad. If Brad is happy, I'm happy for them. Congrats on the new family member. I'll pass on your congratulations to our dads. We are all overjoyed to have a new baby in the family. I love Am I the A-hole stories. I'm a huge fan of drama, But at the end of the day, these are people's lives, and I'm always glad to read when things work out in the updates. Also, congrats to all of you. I'm in fact delighted Josh has been forgiven because he made genuine efforts to make amends. It's nice to be reminded that most people are decent enough folks who are capable of correcting course after slipping into the a-hole territory, rather than just irredeemable, permanent a-holes. So happy for the story. I'm a trans man too, and the outcome. So happy these folks have level-headed families like you around. This is the best situation. And for what it's worth, you are handling questions and pronouns super well. It makes me so happy to see. Much love to y'all. I've known Brad for many years, so I'd like to consider myself well educated. But it's all thanks to him. Thanks for the compliments and the love. Posted by user GXTCH. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's fiancé that I don't want their wedding to be on the day that my twin passed away? Alrighty, this is going to be rather long. My brother, 22 male, and his fiancée, 21 female, were looking at wedding venues yesterday, and his fiancée had decided on the first one that they saw. She wants their wedding to occur in September, 2021 of course, because that's the month of their anniversary. The only problem was that the only day that the venue was available in September would be the day that my twin brother passed away. For a little context, we were born prematurely and had a lot of medical complications. After fighting for his life for a few months, my twin brother sadly lost his life. Yesterday, after they'd paid a down payment on the venue, my brother realized the significance of that day, and him and his fiancée talked to my mum. Fast forward a little deeper into the day, his fiancée texts me out of nowhere and asks me if I'd be on board with the idea of them holding the wedding on the day of my twin's passing. I responded, stating that I could not support it, nor approve of them doing so. She replied, claiming that she would bring my brother's urn to the wedding and make him an honorary groomsman, as well as the fact that she claimed my mother was okay with it. 2 hours after our conversation, and after taking my response into consideration, she posts on Facebook that the venue, nor the day of the wedding will change, i.e., confirming that they hadn't changed their minds. I don't mean to use such vulgar language, but I think her actions were completely screwed up. I feel as though she could pick a million other venues that are available on any other day in September. I feel like crap because I think that the least I can do to honor my twin is to let him have his day. Am I selfish for feeling this way? My mum has been kinda giving me crap about how I feel, though my dad and other siblings feel as though I'm justified. I don't honestly think that OP is in the right here. I feel like that was such a long time ago, you didn't even get to know your twin brother. It's okay to be hurt, but are we never allowed to have any significant events on the day that your twin passed? That kind of seems unfair. I don't feel like you get to grieve for this long a time for someone that you never actually met. This is a huge stretch, OP, and I feel like you're way overemphasizing the importance of this death. Yes, it's still significant, but I'm surprised it's still engulfing you this much, that you would stop someone's wedding on that day? That's just silly. This is too much to ask for, OP. You're the a-hole. Sorry for mixing metaphors, but you are really milking the victim card hard. You never even knew your twin. You are not mourning him, you are mourning for an idea. What a morbid excuse to make everything about you. You're the a-hole, but my answer would change if you were your mother, who actually has memories of your twin and watched her baby die. I didn't know a nice way to put this, but I agree with you. The baby between my oldest brother and my oldest sister passed away after 4 months. My oldest brother kind of remembers her, but he's not sure if it's an actual memory or stories my mother told for so long. He was really little. My mother was really destroyed by it for a long time. I understand why she is, but she still sometimes gets upset that none of us kids consider Annabelle a sibling. We usually say, oh, there's X number of girls and X number of guys, and Annabelle just never gets put into that. My mum used to correct us, and as much as I feel for her loss, it's not my loss. I was born almost 15 years after Annabelle passed. And it's hard for my mother because she still feels like she has X number of children, not X minus one child. And my dad is pretty used to death at this point, due to his job. And while he is supportive, he has told my mother before that he's made peace with Annabelle's passing. He believes there's a heaven, and he doesn't feel the need to constantly mention someone who has passed and live his life in pain. It's like saying you can't have a wedding because Abraham Lincoln died on that day. Two people who have never met this person. If you say someone passed away as a baby, you don't get to claim you were such close siblings if you were the exact same age, and that you would not have any memories of that baby. Isn't it interesting how we, in developed countries, nowadays see death as something rare, which happens mostly to old people? Not long ago, parents had 5 or more kids and hoped that at least 2 of them would survive to adulthood. Do you think they put everything on hold each year on the day that their kids died? My then 18-year-old brother died from an accident when I was 12 years old. I don't even remember the date on which he died because that doesn't matter. I do visit his grave on his birthday, however. Keep the good memories and don't ruin your and everyone else's life every year. That's definitely not what the person that died wanted you to feel and do. You're the a-hole. As much as it hurts to lose someone, holding that date sacred beyond a certain time frame shifts from respectful to maudlin. It has been 16 years since your twin died, and the compromise offered by the bride was more than fair. If anyone has the right to object, it would be the mum or dad who lost a child, especially mum who'd carried and birthed the child. That's a far more real death than a twin you never knew. The fact that the parents are okay and even giving OP grief is a bit telling. Posted by user throwaway76543990, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law to stop trying to see my son as hers?" My sister-in-law, 25 female, lost her baby boy when she was 7 months pregnant with him 4 months ago. She made plans, bought him clothes, and prepared his nursery. Even bought a few packs of diapers and bottles because, due to some health issues she's been having, she decided to go with formula. It was absolutely devastating, especially for my brother because he was looking forward to becoming a dad. I gave birth to my baby boy a month ago, and while I was pregnant, my sister-in-law came to see me, and she said she didn't know what to do with all the baby stuff she bought, so she decided to donate them to me since my husband is currently on deployment and is away from home. I was so happy and thanked them for their generosity. Then, while I was staying at my parents' house, my sister-in-law started bringing in stuff she bought after my baby was born, and said that it'd match the shoes or something like that. She also brought in the formula, even though I was breastfeeding and didn't even need that. She said the formula was for when she feeds my baby, and asked if it was okay. She and my brother would change the diapers and dress my baby in the clothes that they'd bought and do mix and match, and how they would have dressed their deceased baby the same way. I started noticing. I got upset, I'm not gonna lie. Especially when my husband video chats and sees his son dressed in clothes that they picked. She's always holding him, and would take him out of his nursery without telling me. She sometimes sleeps in our nursery, saying that the baby might need something. It went as far as refusing him to call him by his name, and give him a nickname that she was planning on giving her son, like Chico. I finally snapped when she and my brother wanted to take him for a sleepover at their house. I yelled at my sister-in-law after she kept insisting, and told her to stop trying to take my baby from me and treat him like her son. My brother lashed out at me and called me ungrateful while she was crying, telling him they needed to leave. My mum watched it all and sided with my brother, who said that I should pay for everything that they gave me and that they didn't want to take the stuff back for my baby's sake. We haven't talked after the argument. My mum keeps talking to my sister-in-law, and I could hear her cry on speaker. I felt guilty, but all I wanted was to bond with my baby, and she was there all the time. I genuinely don't think, from the way that you've put it across, that you can be blamed for any of this behavior from them, OP. You facilitated them, which was perhaps a mistake, because they kept trying to cross the line ever so slightly with their behavior to compensate for the loss of their own baby. It's genuinely heart-wrenching and it's a very sad situation, but you cannot just put someone else's child in place of your own lost child. It's not fair on the baby, it's not fair on the parents, and it's not fair on yourself. OP, I can't blame you for laying down the law. Who the hell would let your own baby have a sleepover with your brother and sister-in-law? That's just ridiculous. I don't know what planet they're living on to think that that's a normal thing to do. That's bordering on Cold Child Protective Services. She's abandoned her baby. Not the a-hole. But your sister-in-law is grieving and needs to see a therapist. Pretending your son is her baby is not helping her heal or get help, because in her mind, she already has a baby. Not the a-hole, but keep an eye. Give them everything back and get out as fast as you can. Honestly, reading through the way OP describes her sister-in-law interacting with the baby, I just keep thinking, what if she decides it's her baby and tries to take him? She doesn't sound well mentally and could get worse. Exactly what I was thinking, as most people during grief don't really think like they usually do, and the fact that she can just pop by the nursery, take the kid and dip to an unavailable location, aka kidnap the kid, may be a small chance, but a chance nonetheless. I mean, it sounds like it's absolutely not a small chance, and statistically, most kidnappings happen by close friends and family, not strangers. I would absolutely be worried she would kidnap that baby. The sister-in-law isn't grieving, which is the problem. She's found a way to put her grief on pause, like parents who keep their kids' room as a shrine. She definitely needs help, and OP needs to keep very clear boundaries in place. No more gifts, no more clothes, no more nicknames. If they won't take the stuff back, then donate it. Do not let it be associated with your son, because sister-in-law is using it as a touchstone for her illusions, or delusions I'd say. Shut that down, and quick. Do not leave her alone with your son in any capacity. She needs help, and until she gets it, it's up to OP to protect her kid however she can. Posted by user Throwaway Am I the A-hole 1212. Titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my sister to be wary of her attractive babysitter? Due to pandemic-related issues, I, 25 female, had to stay at my sister's house for 3 weeks. My sister, 35 female, works in an essential field and hence had to go to work every day while her husband mostly worked from home, but had to go to his office 2 to 3 times a week. Because their hours were so difficult to manage and work around, my sister hired a babysitter to look after their 6-year-old daughter. This babysitter, 24 female, stayed at their house in a guest room, and also did other things for the family. Take care of their dog, including taking her on walks, helping my niece with her schoolwork, occasionally taking care of their garden, etc. It's only when I went to their house to stay last month that I realized the true extent of their situation. The babysitter was extremely attractive, and she wore skimpy clothing. She seemed to be in competition with Tesla's short shorts. She literally wore camis or thin tank tops half the time, and cited Los Angeles weather as the reason why when I asked her about it. She also said, "This is how people in Los Angeles dress," and basically called me ignorant. I tried to warn my sister about this situation, about how she was leaving her husband at home with such a woman for extended periods of time. Anyone would be tempted. Her husband has been unfaithful to her in the past. All the more reason to be extra cautious, right? I also asked her what kind of example her babysitter was setting for her younger daughter. I think I might be the a-hole because my sister got so upset with me and literally blew up in my face. She said that she trusted her husband completely and that they had gone to therapy together and worked out their issues. Lol? She also said that I was so wrong for questioning their girl's character and for asking what kind of example her babysitter was setting. She basically called me sexist. She also accused me of lashing out because I was never considered popular or attractive in high school or college with boys, so I had become resentful. She has to be the a-hole for that, right? When I told my boyfriend about this, he joked, "I didn't know I was dating a misogynist." I think the only reason I wasn't kicked out of the house was because of last-minute intervention from my dad. He also seemed to take my sister's side, however. My relationship with my entire family now seems acrimonious. Am I the a-hole here? OP, if everyone in your family knows the ins and outs of your relationship with this person, and they're all not on your side, I think that's a pretty clear indication that you're the one in the wrong here, is it not? You have a problem with this babysitter for being attractive. You're trying to find a scapegoat for your actions, saying that the husband was adulterous and whatnot at one point in time. Maybe he is again, maybe he's not. You don't have any evidence for that, so you're saying that you're allowed to say whatever you want just because the husband has been unfaithful to her. So you know what? Screw this babysitter. I can say whatever I want because I don't agree with what she's wearing or her life choices. That kind of makes you a terrible person, OP. You are a misogynist for doing that, and you're the a-hole. First of all, can we please all stop reducing men to useless sex-crazed lumps with no control over their penises? Because I think that trend is getting old. That said, the way a woman dresses is her choice, period. You don't get to question her about it. Furthermore, your sister's marriage and trust issues with her husband are not any of your business either. Period. Preach. OP is being super disrespectful, not only to the babysitter, who did nothing wrong, even after OP actually asked her, a stranger, about her clothes, but to the husband as well. Nobody in a decent relationship would just automatically assume their husband is being unfaithful due to an attractive babysitter. OP, apologize to all parties. I'd also take what she said about your jealousy and projections seriously. You're the a-hole. The 1950s called, and they want their attitudes towards women's clothing back. Nah, they had shorts and camis in the 1950s. OP seems to have arrived in the 1910s, at least. Are you saying the kids have seen her ankles? Scandalous! You're the a-hole. You really do seem sexist. She's of questionable character because of how she dresses, and men can't be trusted around attractive women? Come on, OP. Also, if she's staying in your sister's house, do you just think she's blind and doesn't see this girl? Or is she too stupid to see the threat that you seem to? It's gotta be one or the other if you felt like you needed to warn her to be wary. Posted by user throwaway 00865107, titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my wife and stepdaughter? My 8-year-old son has muscular dystrophy. He was diagnosed at 5 years of age. My ex-wife and I noticed something was seriously wrong when he struggled with a delay in walking, difficulty rising from his seat, and bending and picking stuff up. The news was absolutely devastating. My ex-wife couldn't accept how everything we had planned for our son's future came crashing down. She thought I had more courage to deal with his illness, so she left, probably wanting to forget about us and start over. I got married to my wife a year ago. My stepdaughter is a very loud and picky kid. She's 12. She had laid her eyes on my son's room and wanted to take it. We've talked about it since she seems to be hating me and holding a grudge for this very reason. I told her no. Her room is upstairs. It's smaller, but I needed the bigger room to provide my son with space to move freely. Last week, she brought it up again and said she wanted to switch rooms because her friend said it was not cool and girly and she wanted space to put her girly stuff. I explained that my son doesn't have the ability to go up and down stairs with a wheelchair. My wife said that I should get one of those electric climbing wheelchairs. I told her yes, I might be considering this in the future, but I wasn't going to burden my son with the trouble of climbing up and down stairs before I get him a better wheelchair once I've saved up for it. My stepdaughter started crying. My wife sided with her and lashed out after I refused, saying her daughter's mental health matters and that I was being unfair with treating kids differently. I lost it. I started yelling at them both and telling them they were selfish for asking me this. My wife yelled back and said she wanted to take her daughter and go stay with her folks till I make this right and be fair to them. There doesn't seem to be too many redeeming qualities about these two, about any of the women in your life, OP, And for that, I'm going to go on to this next segment and say, you're better off without them. You're better off without all three of those women in your life if they are going to make life even harder for someone that was born with muscular dystrophy. That's not fair on him. It's not fair on you, just so that they can be a little more convenienced with a little more space in your house. Those two can go to hell for all I care. I wouldn't invite them back, I'd cut them off, and I'd find someone that is actually worthy of your time and will actually be patient with you and your son. None of this is your fault. You are doing the best you can as a father, and they throw all this on you. Simply unacceptable. There is a no 3 strikes when you're out policy. 1 strike, get out of my house. Not the a-hole. Your stepdaughter is a child and will hopefully grow up to realize how much of an a-hole she's being. Your wife is a full-grown adult and should know better. If she can't recognize why your son's needs far outweigh her daughter's needs for a bigger room, then consider throwing away the whole wife. My wife thinks I somehow see my stepdaughter as less and would consider everything I do for my son playing favorites. She's very sensitive about this particularly, and can't seem to get those silly thoughts out of her head. If your wife thinks you taking care of your son's medical needs is playing favorites, then I hate to break it to you, but she's not worth the trouble. Your son has one of the most trying genetic conditions, and instead of supporting you and your stepson through what is undoubtedly a hard journey for you both, she is instead petty and jealous. Those thoughts aren't silly, they are toxic. Their lack of empathy for a little kid that is gradually losing his abilities is heartbreaking. Adapting a house is terribly expensive. Those wheelchair elevators may not fit OP's house, besides being horribly expensive. Giving him the bedroom where he can be independent without asking for help or house modifications should be a non-issue. It should be a given. I never saw anyone complaining about it, as the stepkid and her mum are doing, and I worked with kids with disabilities. For real, the daughter and stepmom are upset that she doesn't have a bigger room to make more girly, but lil dude is suffering from a lifelong disability for frick's sake. Like, a greatly reduced life too, if he is already in a wheelchair at 8. The lack of empathy from the stepmom and sister, not willing to let him be independent while he can, is unbelievable. Not the a-hole, of course, but why not offer to change your stepdaughter's room to something more girly if that's the problem? Regardless, wanting to make your son go up and down stairs with a wheelchair just because her room is smaller is ridiculous. But since your wife sided with her, I guess we know where this is coming from. I'm not sure if she'll be okay with this idea. I think it's more about the location and space, because my stepdaughter has tons of girly stuff in her room, but wanted a place to organize it. Sounds like maybe she has more stuff than she needs. Reminds me of an old acquaintance who also had way too much stuff and never learned humility or basic decency. Her mother also coddled her like crazy. Honestly, I think this is your wife's fault, and if she can't see that, there is no good solution to this. Good luck, I hope you can work it out. Maybe try the relationship advice sub? Posted by user GatorWoe, titled, Am I the a-hole for laughing and putting my head in my hands when my wife tried to make me take a testosterone test? I'm just so frustrated right now. My wife continues to try to blame the fact that I'm not attracted to her on me factors. Maybe it's my work, my family, my height. Now it's my hormone levels. So my wife gave birth to our twins a year ago, and since then I haven't been attracted to her. She's had huge stretch marks and is still about 70 pounds over her pre-baby weight. Her personal hygiene is also very low. I've been trying to give subtle clues, like let's get a healthy meal subscription, or let's walk around the trails after dinner. Or I'd talk about what perfumes she would like to wear. However, today she asked if next time I went to the doctor, I would get a testosterone test. I looked at her in disbelief. Then she said that there could be a medical reason for my lack of attraction and kept pushing it. I couldn't take it and started laughing and putting my head in my hands and shaking it. My wife got extremely ticked and said that you didn't have to be 60 to have erectile dysfunction. I finally snapped and said that I did get hard in the right circumstances. And it's true. Every time I go back to the college campus where I do research, I have felt intense attraction for a lot of the women there. Now she's saying that I've devastated her beyond belief and that her body will never be the same. Am I the a-hole? I can't help how disgusted I am about stretch marks, and I can't help that my previously dead sense of attraction goes all the way to 100 when I see women where I work, and I hate my wife for denying that I'm not the problem at all. I'm genuinely taken aback at this one. I don't know what to say. It's a truly terrible thing to say to a person, but I'm not at all sure how common this is. I feel like reading r/dead bedrooms has skewed my opinion here, because you just see it all the time where the low libido partner just falls out of love with the high libido partner. A lot of the time it's because of weight or something just happens in their life. And OP holding it in for so long and completely blowing up at her like this and devastating her, it just hurts to see. It just really hurts. It's not the way to go about it. There should have been couples counseling. There should have been something to help your wife and help this relationship ages ago, yet you let it fester, OP, because you didn't want to deal with it. You're the a-hole, and I don't think there's much coming back from this unless you guys work on this and communicate. You're the a-hole. If you love her just for her body, you don't love her. She gave birth a human being. Of course, her body won't be the same. Stretch marks are common, like, if not all of humans, most of us have it. I have stretch marks on my knees and my ass, and I'm a 23-year-old male. Just look at your body. I'm 99% sure you have them somewhere. If she gained weight as normal, she was pregnant, just work out with her. Not because she was fat, just for her health. I hope she dumps you. Edits? Oh my god, I'm really shook right now for the response. First, years of attraction and love are different things, but OP sounds too much of an a-hole to be in love with her. For working out, if she's looking after twins all day, I think she's just too tired to walk after dinner. What OP needs to do is giving her a me time and explain to her how unhealthy it is being overweight. I'm not from the USA, so I don't know her weight. Pounds don't make sense to me at all. For hygiene, OP is right, but overall, he sounds too ignorant. That's why I went with you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Stop comparing your wife, whose body went through pregnancy and the birth of twins, to young college students who make you horny. It might not be a medical issue, but yes, you are the problem in this equation. Exactly this. Not attraction to his wife is his issue, not hers. It's his own issue that he doesn't find the body that gave him 2 kids attractive. It's his shallowness that's the issue. Only half right. It could be both their issues. Gaining significant weight and doing nothing to try and regain your body, plus poor hygiene, are legitimate reasons for your spouse to be less sexually attracted to you. If a woman marries a stud athlete with an 8-pack who smells of Tom Ford cologne, and he suddenly morphs into a couch-surfing 250-pound lump that showers once a week, no one here is going to tell her just suck it up and take one for the team. Especially not if he's trying to pin the blame on her, like there's something wrong with her biologically for not wanting to search for his smelly unwashed wiener under all the layers of flabs so she can stick it in her mouth while pinching her nose shut with her other hand. That's really gross. Edits? Evidently this sub never thinks that a woman should never have to feel guilted or pressured into having sex if she doesn't want to, regardless of the reason for it. And I would agree with that view. Yet, when a man has a genuine and legitimate reason not to want to have sex, such as his partner has become obese and doesn't wash, then how he feels and what he wants is irrelevant. It's still all about what she wants, and he's the a-hole, or there's something wrong with him for even suggesting that he has a right to feel repulsed and to turn down sex. And I say, shame on them for even thinking it's remotely okay to hold such a blatant gender double standard around sexual consent. TLDR, a woman is just as entitled to sex from her husband as a man is from his wife. She isn't. Full stop. And the fact that she just had a baby or 2 isn't a free pass to sexual coercion. Get it? Posted by user Am I the A-hole 1231? Titled, Am I the A-hole for evicting a tenant because they got pregnant? Yes, I know the title sounds awful, but please do hear me out before making a judgment. I will accept whatever judgment I'm given. I, 30 male, purchased a 3-bedroom condo in Toronto, Canada 5 years ago when I was in my second year of medical residency. Soon after the purchase, I rented one of the rooms to my roommate, female 29, to offset the costs of the mortgage. I live in one room, she lives in the second, and the third is my study/office. She has been a great roommate from the beginning. We aren't necessarily friends, as in we don't do things together for fun, but we get along exceptionally well. The entire roommate/tenant relationship has gone swimmingly up until recently. A couple weeks ago, my roommate broke the news to me that she's pregnant. The father was a fling of hers who does not want anything to do with the child. My roommate has decided she wants to keep the child anyways and raise it on her own. To me, that seems like a huge challenge, and I admire her for it. The issue is, while I don't necessarily dislike children, I have no desire to live with a baby. While the condo is a fair size, I will most definitely be woken up by the baby's cries at night. My condo is also where I like to come home and to relax, like a haven after a long workday. And the idea of coming home to a baby honestly seems absolutely chaotic, especially since this isn't my own child, i.e., one that my girlfriend and I decided to have and was mentally prepared for. As difficult as it was for me to do this, I told her essentially what I've written here, and that it would be best if she finds somewhere else to live. I am not rushing her out or anything like that. I have given her 6 months' notice, since any later than that will come too close to the birth. She was honestly quite taken aback by this, and thought that I was being cruel. Her primary concern is that rent has gone up substantially in the city since she signed on with me. I haven't increased her rent since she's moved in, so she's essentially paying 2015 rent. She works as a waitress, and will likely need to find a lesser apartment to keep within the same budget. A couple of other considerations are that she was out of work while restaurants were closed, but I did waive her rent for that period. All of the furniture is also mine, aside from her bedroom, so she would need to figure something out on that front as well, aside from all the child expenses. I understand her position, and I feel horrible about the situation, but I honestly can't do it. Am I the a-hole for this? It's a very hard situation there, and getting pregnant is a very hard situation, as we see many times throughout this subreddit. Props to her for keeping the baby, but that comes with its own challenges, and one of those challenges is that you can't live with OP anymore. It's too much of a disruption. I can't personally fault OP for not wanting to have such a disruption in his home environment. It's his house, his rules. Sometimes you just have to make hard decisions like this, and it's unfortunate that it's having such an effect on the friend, but that's life sometimes. So basically, yeah, not the a-hole. Edit. Thank you to everyone who has commented. There have been 2 great suggestions on how I can make this situation better, which I have taken to heart. I haven't been able to give life much thought lately, as work has been quite busy. Firstly, I have a friend in real estate, and I'm going to see if they can help her try to find some affordable listings. Secondly, as I don't plan to take on another tenant after her, and can afford to do this anyway, I have decided I'm going to waive her rent for the remainder of the tenancy. This will hopefully give her a bit of a boost to get on her feet. Edit 2, I'm just checking this for the first time today. My god, I was not expecting anywhere near this many replies. Thank you to everyone who has commented. I am about to head into surgery, but I will do my best to get back to as many people as I can later today. Edit 3/update. I am honestly overwhelmed by the amount of attention this has got. Thank you to everyone that commented regardless of your opinion. I also have an update on the situation, and I wish everyone that's commented so far could receive a notification to read it. So firstly, to anyone asking about the legality of the matter, I consulted an attorney to be 1000% sure, and this is perfectly legal. Since I live in the unit, the eviction laws are much more lenient. Secondly, to anyone that said I should allow her to live with me anyway, I challenge you to consider what the alternative would be. If this doesn't happen now, then when? Her baby will become a toddler, and a toddler eventually becomes a school-aged child. Will it really be any better to do this later on? Or do you suggest that I let her raise the child here until they are 18? And finally, the update. When I came home from work today, I told her that I wanted to discuss the overall situation. Before I even began, she actually apologized to me for how she spoke to me, and for expecting that I would be okay for her to raise her child here. I told her that her apology is totally unnecessary, as her reaction was completely understandable considering the uncertainty of her future. I then told her what I told all of you, that I would waive her rent for the remainder of her stay to help her get on her feet. She pushed back on this at first, but after I urged her to think of her child, she graciously accepted. Aside from this, I also told her about my friend who could help her out with finding some affordable listings in the area. I thought I might be overstepping there, but she was actually extremely thankful and said that she would take me up on there. And finally, I want to thank user Tutti Peachy Fruity for probably the best piece of advice that I've read. I'm sure there are many more people that I should be thanking, but I honestly don't think I'll be able to read everything here. This was that I could help her obtain a more reliable work position at my hospital. Nothing fancy, as she doesn't have any schooling, but it will be more secure than waitressing. And once you're in, there's always ways to work your way up. There would also be benefits and maternity leave that I don't think restaurants usually offer. This was probably my biggest risk of overstepping, but when I mentioned the idea to her, she was actually over the moon. Tears were shed. I do agree that I acted in self-interest here, so I think it's the least I can do to make sure this soon-to-be mother and child have some sense of security in their lives. Thank you again to everyone. Posted by user Remarkable Hat 5646, titled, Am I the a-hole for condemning my cousin for having an OnlyFans account? Throwaway. I, 26 male, stumbled upon pictures of a girl who looked remarkably like my cousin, 20 female. There was information for an OnlyFans account, and to confirm it was her, I bought temporary membership so I can see the pics, screen cap them for evidence, and delete my account. Unfortunately, it was her. I confronted her and told her what I discovered. She was horrified as expected, and after the initial shock wore off, she tried to defend herself, saying that it helps pay some of her bills. I told her that there are plenty of honest ways to make money instead of being a virtual escort. She called me disgusting for confronting her like this, but I told her that I was looking out for her. My reasoning is that if future employers discover this, there's a good chance she will lose employment. I made an ultimatum to her. Delete her OnlyFans account, or I will show her parents, my uncle that I am close to. The ultimatum is still going, and we had a huge fight afterwards. I might be the a-hole for condemning her like this, but I think I'm looking out for her best interests, since people can use this as blackmail against her. I think you need to mind your own business, OP. She's an adult. She can make decisions for herself. If she wants to make an OnlyFans account, that's her prerogative. It's kind of messed up that you went in there, paid for it, screen capped it all as evidence to then blackmail her. It's crazy how you're looking out for her best interests for people that could blackmail her by blackmailing her. Really weird logic there, isn't it? In fact, I really do think you're the a-hole in this situation. Do you have no self-awareness of what you're doing? Leave her alone, let her make her own decisions. You are a man-child. You're the a-hole. You just randomly stumbled upon the photos, huh? While you were, what? Looking at autumn garden plants, finding this week's devotional, tutoring underprivileged kids over Zoom? You're the a-hole and a hypocrite. Exactly this, and so is anyone else who consumes porn while degrading sex workers. Yes, I just saw a guy joking that an acceptable first date screening question would be to ask the girl if she had an OnlyFans. So he'll ask an extremely offensive question to a woman, sex worker or no, but after she throws her drink in his face and walks out on him, he'll go home, open up a porn tube, and jerk off to sex workers for free. Misogyny is totally dead though, guys. Massive, 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 you're the a-hole, OP. You're the a-hole. You are the one using it as blackmail against her. What is it with men always feeling like they're the co-owners of the vaginas of their family members? She is an adult. She can do what she wants, and while I don't really like this either, I have no concern over it. And I would certainly not take the ultimatum from a hypocrite Mitch who goes looking through OnlyFans profiles to get some fun and spit on the women who are trying to get some money from it. You should respect them if you appreciate their work. Posted by user Wet Socks. Titled, Am I the a-hole for making a box of things my partner can't touch? Hahaha, please stop sending me death threats, you goofy goobers. I'm on mobile and don't use Reddit often, so apologies for formatting. Anywho, my 20 female, partner 24 male, loses everything. You hand him a $100 bill, walk away for 5 minutes, and he's digging through everything trying to find it. It's kinda cute sometimes, but others it really gets on my nerves. Today, 2 things got on my nerves bad. Thing number 1. I have one very specific lighter that was my parents' last gift to me before they separated. It's a refillable one with a custom case on it. I always set it in the same place after smoking a cigarette. This morning, I get up to smoke and it's gone. I flip our whole apartment upside down before calling him in a panic. He tells me he used it this morning, but can't find it in the car, and he has to go to work. If this thing is lost for good, I'm gonna freak. Thing number 2, I have lupus and early stage rheumatoid arthritis, and my meds are just gone. I know he took an allergy pill this morning and took everything out of the medicine cabinet. Now my 2 most important medications and as-needed sleeping meds are nowhere to be found. I got fed up, so I ran over to the dollar store and got a box and put a few other important things in there. I sent him a picture and said, once I find my lighter and my medications, everything in this box isn't to be touched. He texted back saying how it was humiliating that I even went and did that. I'm overreacting, and I'm being a bully to him for something he isn't doing intentionally. His best friend, whom he works with, now has also texted me, saying I'm making a big deal out of nothing. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for setting aside a box of things that he isn't allowed to touch due to him losing incredibly important items of mine? ETA, I oversimplified my text to him in the post, cause it was actually kinda long, and I don't want my post to be too long. What I actually said was as follows. Hey love, your phone's probably off, but on break, we can talk at length about this. I know you didn't mean to displace my stuff, but unfortunately, this time it's a sentimental item and medications that determine my functionality. So I feel like we have to have some kind of solution here. It's not ideal, as I like that we share most things, but this has become more serious. I ran to the dollar store and picked up this box, and I want you to know, if it's in this box, it is incredibly important, and cannot be lost. So please don't touch it unless I ask you to. Besides this, I hope you have a lovely day obtaining that frickin' grain, and I believe my dad is bringing you lunch today. Love you. ETA 2, since it's the most commonly asked question, I'll address it directly in this post. He's not officially diagnosed with an attention disorder, but I have higher functioning ADHD, and I've noticed a considerable amount of my own symptoms in his mannerisms and behaviors. I only haven't brought it up because 1, he doesn't have insurance at the moment, and 2, I try not to bring up potential diagnoses, as my mum was a bit of a pill pusher and borderline Munchausen by proxy with me, and it feels almost like a violation of myself when I do it to other people. However, a local clinic does free mental health screenings, and we will be going to get him evaluated on Saturday. Thank God they're open on Saturdays. Updates. Alright internet, here's where things are sitting now after a 20-minute phone call. As soon as I answer the phone, he's apologizing. He found the lighter in his jacket pocket, and my meds are in fact behind the toilet. He will be retrieving them when he gets home and has offered me a back rub. I have accepted his offer. I ask why he got defensive with me. He apologizes again and said that he had just gotten to work and was already running late, and the stress of being late combined with being called out just irritated him for a minute. He wanted to text back and apologize as soon as he clocked in, but cell phones aren't allowed on the floor, which I knew. His friend texted me because he received a brief explanation as to why my partner is flustered and irritable with little to no detail. He actually thinks the box is a really good idea, and suggests we have one for every room. More apologizing, and then I hear his boss call him over, so he has to go. I love yous, and we hung up. It was a misunderstanding early in the morning after a stressful start. I'm fine with the result of the phone call. The pieces of the story pie fit together, and we're gonna be okay. He's surprisingly not out to get me and take my stuff out of spite. Who'da thunk it? Posted by user TrueSection9074, titled, Am I the a-hole for walking out of a job interview? I, 26 male, got offered an interview for a job that I had my eye on for quite some time. I was scheduled to meet with 3 people within the actual office itself, and considering this was a job that could be done remotely, that raised my suspicion. But I still decided to learn more about the position. When I got there, the first interviewer, who was with HR, took almost 20 minutes to call me in. The receptionist was nice and dull and kept trying to reach out to them to see what was taking so long, but nonetheless, that irked me the wrong way. My interviewer eventually walked out into the lobby and told me to follow him. No apology for the long wait. To describe him, he was a tiny guy, about 5'6", and spoke in that weird Valley Girl accent, which is important later. The actual interview went off the rails really quick. My interviewer was rude to me and cut me off a lot. For background, I live with my parents because they have health issues, and I help take care of them, so moving out isn't an easy option for me or them. When the interviewer asked where I live, I told them that I lived with my parents in X town. He laughed at me and asked if I was too scared to move out. I was still trying to be professional, but he kept making snide remarks about some of my experience, the state school that I went to, etc. I eventually got fed up, and I felt like I wasn't going to get the job anyways, so I decided to tell him, "You're being really unprofessional, so we're done here." He got mad and said, "So you don't want to meet the team you're interviewing with?" I told him no. If HR is this unprofessional, then I can't imagine what everyone else here is like. As I was leaving through the lobby, the HR guy followed me and tried to embarrass me by saying out loud to the receptionist, "He is no longer welcomed here. If he tries to come back in, call the police." I told him to shove it and go make out with his boyfriend, so that way no one has to hear his voice, and then I left. I had never walked out of an interview in my life. No matter how well or bad they went, I did kind of feel bad for skipping out on the other 2 interviews, which would have been with some of the managers on the team that I would be working with. But I absolutely hate most HR departments as it is, since they produce some of the most toxic people. And if this HR guy was really unprofessional, I question the company as a whole. OP, based on the way you were being treated, I can't blame you for walking out of the interview. You were being judged like that. It was going really well until you said, "Go make out with your boyfriend so that no one else has to hear his voice." I get that you were getting personal attacks from their HR manager and that they should know better, but saying that was definitely not the right way to go about it, and that puts you into the a-hole territory as well. If you want others to treat you how you want to be treated, I really hope it's not too small a world in this job market, because that's only going to reflect badly on you as a person that you threw that insult back, nonetheless walked out of an interview. People talk and things come back. This reflects on you really badly, just as bad as it reflects on them. Everyone sucks here. This whole thing is just 2 a-holes butting heads. You were perfectly within your right to leave because he was being unprofessional, but did you really need to stoop so low with the final comment you made? Yeah, I would have said not the a-hole, but for the homophobic comment. Everyone sucks here. The HR guy is an a-hole for being insulting and rude, and you are also an a-hole for being homophobic. You were right to walk out, but from what I see in the comments, you keep defending your homophobia, which reverses any sympathy I might have had. You are clearly just as judgmental of the way this guy talks as he is of you living with your parents. Assuming someone's sexuality from their voice and looks, and then using that assumption to attack them is an a-hole move. I'm not even convinced that OP was right to walk out. Every company I've ever worked for has had at least one a-hole working there. It was premature to walk out only after meeting one person, and being asked to wait for 20 minutes isn't exactly an unheard of ordeal. You're the a-hole, OP. I'm questioning OP's entire recounting of the interaction, given how he clearly hated someone he perceived as gay from the start. I believe the HR guy was later, but that's about it, and probably less than the amount OP stated though. Posted by user The Food Uncle, titled, "Am I the a-hole for proving that my nephew does not have food allergies?" Everyone's mad at me, and I'm gonna be honest and say I don't understand why. I'm 17 female, my older sister is 22, nephew is 4. Around 2 weeks ago, my sister and nephew moved back in with my parents and I because she lost her apartment. I have no issue with that, but my sister claims that my nephew has all of these different allergies. She claimed he was allergic to onions, garlic, bell pepper, and all spicy peppers, and a lot of other stuff. My sister has always been a notoriously picky eater, and a lot of the things that she claimed he was allergic to were things that she didn't like to eat. I didn't believe he had all these allergies, and it ticked me off that my mum started cooking differently, and the food hasn't been as good since she came back home. Like, no garlic? I wanted to prove that she was lying. She went out Sunday to run some errands, and left me with my little dude to watch. I thought it would be fun to make little pizzas for lunch. We made little pizzas with roasted garlic, spinach, and bell pepper. Just like I thought, he ate them with no problem and loved the food. I took pictures while we made the food. When all of my family got around for dinner, I showed my mum what my nephew and I did for lunch and told everyone he enjoyed his garlicky pizza. My sister got extremely mad and started yelling and screaming at me at the dinner table. She accused me of trying to poison her child. I told her that I was just proving what a liar she was, and told her that she was a crappy mum for not feeding her kid food that she didn't like, and telling people he's allergic so he can't try them. My mum ended up sending me to my room. I'm being punished because I did something dangerous, but in reality, I knew my sister was lying. I need to know if I'm an a-hole for exposing her for this, and I just can't see it. Am I the a-hole? Yeah, you are. Unfortunately, you were the a-hole in this situation, because your means don't justify the ends of this situation. Just because you called her out on her lie, you did it behind her back, and you're not the kid's parent. On the off chance that the kid was actually allergic to one of these things, you literally did just poison the kid and put him in a situation that he could have died. Just because in this version of the multiverse that he didn't die doesn't mean in another one that he's not dead. Now just think about what you've done. In another universe, your actions have led to the death of someone else. I'd feel pretty bad about that if I was you right now, OP. So, for that fact, you're the a-hole. Info. What was your plan if he had a life-threatening reaction? No, I'm just kidding. You're the a-hole. Absolutely. People like you have sent other people to the hospital on your quest to be right. If you don't like the way your mum is cooking now, you could try cooking your own food to your own taste. You already proved that you can do it to be petty, now you can just keep doing it. Right? It's like some horrible combo of, I'm pissed that mummy doesn't cook my dinner the way I like anymore, and I can't wait to rub my sister's face in how right I am. Not one single solitary thought given to the child's well-being. The only thing OP proved with this stunt is that they can't be trusted with their nephew. No kidding. Seriously, the only reason OP thinks she has any ground to stand on is because she was right. Well, whoop-dee-doo for you. But you potentially risked a child's life to prove it. Yes, it sucks when people, possibly as others have said growing out of allergies can happen, lie about food allergies. But it's way worse when people don't believe them and try to test them. Because lying causes annoyance and inconvenience. Testing can cause death. If you were wrong, OP, we wouldn't be seeing this post, because there would be no question you were the a-hole. Instead, we'd be seeing horrible headlines. Photographic evidence proves aunt killed nephew while trying to disprove allergies. You're damn lucky it turned out the way it did. We don't even know she was right. This proves nothing. Just because nephew didn't have an immediate anaphylactic reaction doesn't mean he doesn't have an allergy. Yeah, OP sounds like they think allergies are either you literally die the second you eat something, or you're 100% fine, and I'm not sure what they thought would happen if the kid reacted then and there. I have a citrus fruit allergy. It doesn't cause anaphylaxis unless there's a lot, which generally doesn't happen since I'm 31 and I can control what's in my food. But that doesn't mean I'm not allergic. I just get less extreme urgent symptoms. Posted by user AmiTheA, titled, "Am I the a-hole for leaving my friend's house because she tried to force me to eat vegan?" Basically, I was at my friend's house, knowing she was vegan. She never had a problem about me eating non-vegan around her, so I didn't think it was a problem. But I knew she wouldn't make non-vegan food, so I packed my own. During dinner, she gave me vegan food, and I said, "I packed food, so I'll eat that," and brought it out. She then said that I'm not allowed to eat non-vegan food in her house. I didn't understand why, because she's fine with me eating non-vegan normally. So I decided to go to my car and eat there, and then come back. When I said that, she said, "No, throw the food out and eat what I made." I said no, and then we got into an argument, and I ended up leaving early. She's been ghosting me on all social media for 2 days. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I get what some of the posts are saying, but most of you wouldn't have the same opinion if she was in my house and refused to eat meat. Edit 2. Some people are saying, "You've never ate vegan in your life?" I worded it wrong. I eat many types of food with vegan food, like lobsters, fish, steak, etc. I don't eat only meat, but I wouldn't eat an all-vegan meal, and she offered me a burger with artificial meat in it. You're literally just digging yourself deeper with these edits, OP. I really don't know what you're thinking. Your friend has every right to be offended that you're not eating the food that you agreed to come over and eat. It kinda seems like you sprung that packed food on her at the dinner table. That's really not cool. You could have told her ages before dinner time that you weren't going to eat, so she knew she didn't have to cook for you. But you chose this one opportune time to do it, and you made a big fuss of it. You even left the house to go eat. What kind of friend are you? You sound like a terrible person. Obviously, she can't force you to eat the food that she made, but it's really rude and inconsiderate and shows you don't really care about her if you'd go to this length just to fight with her. You're the a-hole, you didn't seek any compromise, so it's your fault that she's ghosting you. You're the a-hole. It's her house. At least give the food she prepared for you a chance. Eating one meal without meat or dairy won't kill you. Sheesh. That logic doesn't hold up if the situations are reversed. If a vegan goes over to a non-vegan's house, are they obligated to eat a dinner with animal products and/or meat? Eating one meal with meat or dairy won't kill you. Sheesh. Sounds pretty ridiculous, doesn't it? Nope, bad argument. Vegans have to make an active choice to maintain their diet, whereas we omnivores don't. As in the West, the majority of meals by default have some sort of meat or dairy aspect. We don't cross any kind of moral boundary by eating only vegetables, while they do for eating animal products. Unless you have a genuine dietary restriction from eating fruit or vegetables, it's not the same thing. People are so mad about this, it's hilarious. Fellow omnivores, if you don't think eating vegan is a more difficult lifestyle choice, and that factory farming meat and its consumption isn't more harmful as a whole than the various other issues regarding farm labor and water usage, then you're deluding yourselves. You don't have to justify your position on eating it. Vegans can get crazy self-righteous, but the meat eaters in this thread prove they can be just as ridiculously hostile over frickin' nothing. Nobody is making you eat something you don't want to. If they are, you can just leave. Take a chill pill. But at the same time, why should a vegan dictate what the other person eats at all? Morals be damned. I mean, it's incredibly rude to refuse to eat the food your host has prepared for you without even giving it a try. I think the issue is that the standard was for OP to bring their own food. Then without any sort of discussion, the friend demanded OP throw out their food and eat hers. This would be completely different if the friend had actually communicated that she wanted OP to try the food and to once not bring their own food. It isn't a standard for OP to bring their own food to her house. OP said that the friend doesn't have a problem with OP eating non-vegan around them. I assume that means restaurants or at a non-vegan home or like at a work cafeteria. There is a huge difference between choosing to order a non-vegan meal while out to lunch with your vegan friend and packing your own food to go to her house and rejecting the meal your host graciously made for you. Posted by user Carrie May. Titled, Am I the a-hole for removing an unofficial neighborhood playground? So me and my fiance recently bought a house. The house has a plot of land next to it where a 2-car garage that burnt down a few years ago used to stand. The previous owner, rather than rebuilding the garage, decided to build a small playground on the land for the neighborhood kids to use. Apparently, it became pretty popular. But seeing as we do not have kids, and we have no plan to have them, we have no use for the playground. So when me and my fiance moved in, we quickly took the playground down. We are planning to rebuild a new garage, as it is something we really need. This caused a small uproar with parents in the neighborhood, and we got some yelling at us, telling us that we can't take it down as it's part of the neighborhood. One neighbor even tried to call the police, claiming destruct division of the public property. Some people's grammar just cracks me up. From what I heard, she was told it wasn't on public property, it was on our property, and we can do as we please. We've been getting a lot of crap from some of the neighbors, but honestly, we have many reasons to not want this playground. 1. I have long work nights as a nurse, and usually only get a few hours of sleep during the day. And this may make me sound like a monster, but I do not want kids screaming and playing in my yard while I'm trying to sleep. 2. There is a liability if the kid gets injured or worse. We could get in a lot of trouble. And 3. It is a complete eyesore. This is not some professional store-bought playground. It was made using old equipment that the previous owner and some of the neighbors found. Most of the equipment was very old and rusty, which again can get me into trouble if one of the kids gets sick or injured. So, am I the a-hole for taking down a neighborhood playground? I'm surprised these people are getting the knickers in such a knot with this neighborhood playground. Surely you've got more to do with your time than take your kids to some broken down rusty-ass playground in someone's backyard. I'm genuinely surprised these parents trust their kids enough to go and do that alone, if not with the parents. But in this regard, why can't they just take them to another playground that's not rusty and not disturbing people trying to sleep? I'm really at ends trying to understand where the parents are coming from with their anger, directing it at OP. Like, it's my property, I can do whatever the hell I want here, get off my land. But no, seriously, I don't blame OP for what they've done here, I would do the same too. I'm not about to get sued for personal injuries when a kid scrapes his arm on my rusty-ass old playground and gets tetanus. I didn't sign up for this, that's not my prerogative, go away. OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, tell them your insurance made you take it down. This is the best answer to keep the peace. I doubt it's even a lie. I wouldn't want that liability on my property, especially if this is in the USA. Yeah, I bet those same parents whining that it was taken down would turn around and sue the crap out of OP if their kid was ever hurt on that playground. Also, those people who care so much about those children having a place to play probably just want their kids out of their own hair. If they really care, they can all pitch in and build a new playground. Not the a-hole for your reasons listed. It's your house, and if a kid breaks his arm on your property, you'll get into trouble. I would imagine your insurance would go up a lot from it just existing. No idea how to handle the neighbors, but you can't leave it up to appease them. Is the playground still intact anywhere? Maybe one of them will be willing to put it up on their lawn instead. They won't, but hopefully it helps them understand your point. This would be my suggestion too. Give them all the pieces of the playground and tell them they can assemble it on their own property. OP says, most of the equipment was damaged when taken apart, as it was pretty old. The only thing that was still usable was the swing set, which we gave to one of our nicer neighbors when she asked nicely. I love this because when one of the jerks asks about any of the good equipment, you can tell them you gave it to the neighbor who wasn't an a-hole. Not the a-hole. I work in claims and insurance. If they saw this on your property, the insurance company would go nuts. It's not only a hazard in general, but if it's old, rusty, and not put together by a professional, then even worse. Some kid breaks an arm or gets a serious concussion, you would be dead in the water. Insurance hates things like this and pools and trampolines because someone always gets hurt, and then a suit happens, and what could literally be zero fault of their insured, they still have to pay. Like, if a neighbor trespassed on your property to let their kids swim without permission, and one of them drowned? Yeah, you still could be on the hook because it's an attractive nuisance. Damn it, I really wanted a pool if I ever buy a house. What the hell?